Here's the verdict. Welcome to The Verdict. I'm Devontae Banks.
I'm Paul Schuhart.
And I'm Tristan Glover.
Now, Chinatown is a 1974 classic that drew real inspiration from the California water wars. It forever redefined the film noir genre and is known as one of the best films of all time. It stars Jack Nicholson and Faye Dunaway as the leads. Let's take a look at the trailer.
Los Angeles, 1937. There are lots of guys like J.J. Gittes. They're easy to find, if you want to find them.
Mr. Gittes, have we ever met?
Well, no.
Never?
Never.
Since you agree with me that we've never met before, you must also agree with me that I've never hired you to do anything, certainly not spy on my husband. I don't get tough with anyone, Mr. Gittes. My lawyer does.
You do your job. And sometimes you find the answers to questions that should never be asked. Or you find out what happens to people who ask them.
Hold it there, kitty cat. You're a very nosy fellow, kitty cat, huh? You know what happens to nosy fellows?
I dislike the word cheat.
Did you have affairs?
Mr. Gittes.
Did he know about it? Where were you when your husband died? You were seeing someone too. For very long?
I don't see anyone for very long, Mr. Gittes. It's difficult for me.
Mr. Gittes, you're dealing with a disturbed woman who's just lost her husband. I don't want her taken advantage of.
The truth. I said I want the truth.
Jake, I'm doing you a favor. Come on, Jake.
Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
You get tough. You get tender. You get close to each other. Maybe you even get close to the truth. Jack Nicholson and Faye Dunaway in a Robert Evans production of a Roman Polanski film, Chinatown.
So what are you guys, what are you guys thinking of this movie?
Well, you know, there's a lot of stuff that we could probably talk about this movie. It's quite long. There's a lot that goes on. A lot of plot points. And you know what? I think the biggest thing that I like about this movie is that like every character that's in this movie somehow comes back. You know, like the guy in the beginning, what's his name? Curly, yes.
I was just gonna call him Paulie, but
yeah.
Don't call him that. That'd be confusing because we have a Paulie.
Yeah. But I like how, you know, he's in the beginning. You know, we kind of learn a little about the guy, and then he leaves. And normally, we would just throw him away. You know, most I think people would just have thrown him away. But I like how they reincorporate him later in the film.
well, he doesn't feel, I mean, what he does is very helpful to the lead, but he didn't need to be there. He didn't need to be there at all. I mean, man, that's sort of one thing. Like you say, you expect that the character just gonna be gone, but this movie is pretty much just made to completely subvert any expectations that one has about this sort of movie.
Which is crazy because even when you look at stuff like Law and Order or movies now, they still go on so many tropes that this movie subverts. Right? And we were just talking about this before we came back, but this is the sort of movie where you just kind of feel unfulfilled by the end. And that kind of makes you feel fulfilled because you're like all the things you would normally expect in the noir detective genre, you don't get the satisfaction.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't get the big wrap up. You don't get the big juicy battle.
Yeah, it just ends.
Yeah, it's just like
You're not really happy about it.
Yeah,
like Monty Python and the Holy Grail is the most satisfying.
That's what I hesitated about saying, so that I could say it now.
Oh, now I'm sorry. I didn't know. I stole your line.
It just ends. Right there, right in front of you.
I mean, and one of the other things I love is I love the aesthetic of like the 1930s type thing, which is another reason I feel like this movie is timeless, because when you are moving in a time period, you make a period piece, it makes it to where it's more relatable. Because we aren't looking at like, oh, in the 70s, they were like, no, I thought it was smart that they actually made a period piece. So now when you look back, whereas the dialogue or the costumes, it feels like you are a part of this town. And I also love how it's about the insidiousness of corruption, and that, you know, just like the water represents in the movie, even though you can have all this pure substance and pure things around, some things just can't be cleaned. And some things are always going to be dirty and messed up.
Salt's not good for the grass.
Yeah.
No, there's it's fun to watch older movies and learn where all these references you've seen like come from. Two that come to mind watching this movie. I couldn't help but laugh, even though it is a very tense moment. But when she's saying, it's my sister, she's my daughter. I've seen that reference in like 4 different things, and so I couldn't help but chuckle at it, even though it's a very hard moment. And then there's a character in the Johnny Depp movie Rango that is based on her character's father. And so as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, yep, that's where that's from. Very random. I'm probably the only person that thought that when I saw it.
Honestly, Rango has weirdly a lot of film allusions. Like, because remember the beginning?
They did it on purpose, though.
Yeah, like the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Like intro with that. But this is the Rango episode.
But yeah, I really like Jack Nicholson in this. I think this is probably one of his best films that he's in. I really like the costumes too. Like you were saying, I think everybody just looks good in this movie. And I think when I think about westerns, and you think of like the good guy always has the white hat, and the bad guy always has the black hat. And when we first see Jack Nicholson, he's wearing a white, suit, and everybody else kind of has lighter colors. And then right when we start meeting the big established guys, like the bigwig guy, I don't remember his name, the main antagonist.
Right,
no, he's wearing a black. Yeah, the father. No, he's wearing a black suit, and the cops are wearing kind of like brown suits. And I think it's really interesting how he plays off those colors, which would be normal in that setting, but I think it's really good. I like the way that he uses that in the movie a lot.
Right.
Yeah, because it's like something where it's like, Polanski does know how to do costume design better than most directors, which, by the way, we all hate Roman Polanski.
Yes.
But like as far as like, and I love about this, which actually influenced Baby Driver a lot, which is people's costumes in the movie tell you something about their characters. Right. So the fact that the police are brown shows you it's like, yes, they do corrupt things, but there's an actual reason. Chinatown does work a certain way, and no matter what you do, you're not going to escape that system. And one of the things I found was super fascinating about this movie is it's still genuinely disturbing. Like him actually, like with the whole nose thing, like that still hurts no matter how many times you watch it.
It doesn't matter how old the movie is. Watching a dude get half his nose cut off is not going to be fun.
I don't know, when you watch some old westerns and then you see somebody get stabbed and they're like, ooh, oh, this hurt.
Okay.
No, like
You can see an old movie do it, but as long as it's done well, it doesn't matter when it's from, it's going to suck.
Yeah, well, it depends on how the actor plays it.
Right.
Because this was still around that transitional period where actors were going from like the more like transatlantic type accents to the more natural acting.
Brando.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where Jack Nicholson plays it so straight.
Honestly, I very much wanted him to like sort of whimper more. Because I'm like, why? I would be freaking out. I need you to cry or something. And he looks up, not a tear on his face.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't care if you're not crying, but at least like have some waterworks. Your nose just got halfway cut off. It's okay.
Hey, there's not a lot of good water in Chinatown.
No,
That's true. Tears are salty. Tears aren't good for grass.
They are not.
Yeah, I think my favorite scene in this whole movie is the ending, right when he's like, "Don't shoot," and we see Jack Nicholson grab the chief, and he's like struggling with the gun, and the deputy, I think it was a deputy.
Yes.
It doesn't really, and how he shoots, and then we just see the car stop moving. Right. I love how he just holds on to that scene so much. It's so amazing, but it's Chinatown. And this is One That Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, a winner of 5 Academy Awards, starring Jack Nicholson as McMurphy, a con who fakes insanity and moves into a state mental hospital and declares war with Nurse Ratched. Can McMurphy destroy the system, or will it destroy him? And considered by some to be one of the greatest films ever made. Here's the trailer.
He's overly psychotic.
No, I want something done!
I think he's dangerous.
Jesus, I mean, you guys do nothing but complain about how you can't stand it in this place here, and then you haven't got the guts just to walk out? I mean, what do you think you are, for Christ's sake, crazy or something? Well, you're not.
Hey, wait a minute. Hold it! See how easy it is?
We're from the State Mental Institution. This is Dr. Cheswick, Dr. Tabor, Dr. Scanlon. I'm Dr. McMurphy.
Hey, Mikey! What? All right, take him over! Get down over here! Get up, Pace! How about it, you creeps, you lunatics, mental defectives?
Thank you, Mac. Thank you. I'll never forget you.
Were you cuckoo for this movie or this film?
I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but I adore this film. I mean, this is one of the greatest films of all time, and it's one of the best examples for people when they see that dumb meme that he's just pretending to be crazy so he doesn't go to jail. It shows why that is a terrible idea, because if you actually were in a mental institution, especially back at this time period, it wasn't going to be very good for you. I mean, and honestly, talk about earlier with Chinatown, you talk about movies with a bunch of film references. Right. There are so many comic books and TV shows and Family Guy episodes that reference this movie that you have no idea. And also, this movie has one of the best Danny DeVito performances, a guy who is the best in everything he's ever done.
But it was a Danny DeVito performance. Was it before Taxi?
I'm not sure if it was.
I don't know if it was before Taxi. It was definitely one of his very first film roles. And I mean, he just kind of had to not hog the camera from Jack Nicholson and what was it, Louis Fletcher?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly think this is Louis Fletcher's film. I love Jack Nicholson in this movie. He did win Best Actor for this one. But this was her movie, I think. He's great, he's fantastic, but every scene with her isn't the best scene, because maybe particularly the best is the one that you're like having the most fun with. But when she's on screen, you can't look away, because that character is just made to completely antagonize and make the patients and the viewer just feel completely terrible.
See, listen, I disagree, right? Nurse Ratched is cool, but it's like the same argument I have about Hans Landa in Inglourious Basterds. Yeah. It's like you have a character who's meant to be this super dark, great villain this entire movie. And it's like, that's great and everything, but it's a lot harder as an actor, and I feel like it's a lot better as a viewer to have a character as nuanced as Jack Nicholson.
Right.
Like when you just have a character who's pure evil, Like, it's like, yeah, she's pure evil. Like, you know, and I'm not saying that's not hard. I'm not an actor or actress. I couldn't do any of this. But I think Jack Nicholson's character, I think he really does command the screen, and that's the reason why he won. Because it's hard to be, because first off, this guy's a terrible, terrible human being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like to begin with. So the fact that she's a character who's so terrible that we root for him.
Yeah, you'd think that at some point I think he does become a better person, but there is still, he becomes a better person on top of still being terrible in those ways.
Is he a better person though, or because he's still a person who's bucking the system?
That's like, it's not even that he becomes, because I don't think he'd be a better person if he went out into the world, but upon, like, in the environment that he's in, like, he has to become the hero in this environment where heroes don't get to exist.
He's not really a hero.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't work.
Bro, he's doing stuff that, come on, man.
I don't think it works.
Like the stuff he does in there, like listen, I get rebelling, but there's some stuff he does where I'm like, listen, Nurse Ratched went farther than I would have went, but dude, you are pushing it.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Listen, I don't think that he becomes a hero that they need, but the hero they need doesn't have to be Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. Are you saying he's the hero they deserve but don't need right now?
Yeah.
Of the Batman stuff. See, like, I don't know, I disagree. I still see him as a terrible character.
Right.
I see him as a character who's selfish. In this movie, I just see him as a person who's like, he knows he just needs to get the trust of the group.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like he does anything altruistic. Now, I know that may be your reading of the movie, and maybe a lot of people's. I truly don't feel like he's altruistic in really any way. I think he's just like, I'm here, I'm going to deal with it, I'm going to do these things, I'm going to still get up to debauchery.
I don't know. I feel like he, at first, doesn't really like or even care about any of them. But then he starts going to the meetings, or the therapy sessions, as Nurse Ratched calls them, and starts realizing how really bad she is, and how the three people that work there are just mean and don't really want to help them. And I mean, there's a couple times where he could have just left. Like, I think an interesting scene is when he's talking to Chief and on the basketball court, and the guy's like, "Why are you talking to him? He can't understand you, nor will he talk back to you. Why don't you just give up on him like all of us have?" And he doesn't. And then that of course doesn't excuse anything that he's done, because the movie makes it very clear that he's not a good person.
Right.
And then he jumps over with the fence on Chief's back, and he could have just left, but he ends up hiding on the bus, and he ends up showing him how to fish, and then he comes back and he tries to teach him how to play poker and to get more cigarettes. And then, of course, there's the bathroom scene when he's trying to pick up the fountain,
right.
And they're all laughing at him, and he's like, "At least I tried. At least I put effort in there." And then, of course, at the end when he's trying to escape, but he doesn't, and he comes in there, and what's his name? Buddy? Not Buddy. It's the guy that ends up killing himself. I don't remember his name.
I know you're talking about, yeah.
I think it's not Buddy. I don't know what his name is. And then he gets a lobotomy, and then that gives Chief enough strength to find the inner courage to finally leave. Yeah. I love the ending so much.
No, it's a beautiful ending, but I feel like part of the reason Jack Nicholson didn't leave is he finally found a sense of belonging. And I don't feel like necessarily finding a sense of belonging makes you a good person. You know what I mean? I still don't think he deserves what happened to him, but also, like him, I feel like it was more, he connected with these people because he finally got to be the king of a castle. And I feel like that's the reason why him and Nurse Ratched clashed more than everyone else, because he was really challenging her domain. I feel like if he was just his normal selfish self, I feel like he still could have got away with it. But I feel like he was also trying to encroach his own views.
And I mean, maybe the reason I do feel that he is, I mean, I say hero. Hero is very loose. I don't mean, like, sticking to the Star Wars thing, he's not Luke Skywalker. He's barely even Han Solo. Like, maybe the reason I just feel that is because, like, he is the lens of the movie for the viewer. He is, like, if we were seeing Nurse Ratched through the eyes of any of the other patients, if we were seeing Nurse Ratched through Christopher Lloyd or Danny DeVito, she probably wouldn't look too terrible. But because we are seeing this take of her from him, she is a monster. James L. Brooks directs Jack Nicholson, Helen Hunt, and Greg Kinnear in a film about an obsessive-compulsive and misanthropic author getting through his days interacting with a single mother waitress and his homosexual artist neighbor. He's difficult, he's mean, a little racist and homophobic, but at least the dog is cute. Here's the trailer for As Good as It Gets.
Open his curtains for him so he can see God's beautiful work. And he'll know that even things like this happen for the best.
Where do they teach you to talk like this? In some Panama City sailor want a hump bar? Sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.
TriStar Pictures invites you to meet a truly appalling individual.
He's a freak show. He's the worst person I ever met. Help!
If you want to see me, you will make an appointment.
Dr. Green, how can you diagnose someone as an obsessive-compulsive disorder and then act as though I had some choice about barging in?
You have messed your last floor.
Have you seen my dog with the little face?
Uh-oh.
You have no idea what your work means to me. How do you write women so well?
I think of a man, and I take away reason and accountability.
Melvin, wait!
Shut up, kids!
Definitely a package you don't want to open or touch.
Pay me a compliment, Melvin. I need one. Quick.
I love you.
You make me want to be a better man.
For sentimental reason.
That's maybe the best compliment of my life.
From Academy Award winner James L. Brooks.
Well, maybe I overshot a little because I was aiming at just enough to keep you from walking out.
Comes a story about how the people you can't live with
Carol the waitress, Simon.
become the people you can't live without.
We all have these terrible stories to get over, and
It's not true. Some of us have great stories, pretty stories that take place at lakes with boats and friends and noodle salad. Just no one in this car.
Jack Nicholson, Helen Hunt, Greg Kinnear, and Cuba Gooding Jr.
I love you.
I tell you, buddy, I'd be the luckiest guy alive if that did it for me.
As Good as It Gets.
So guys, was this movie as good as it gets?
It was okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
I'm like, it's cool.
I enjoyed it enough. I think it was probably 20 to 30 minutes too long.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know where I would have ended it. I'm not a writer, but there was parts where I was like, I would be okay if this ended.
But it's kind of like how I felt during like Return of the King, where I was like, oh man, that's a cool rap. You still have some more. You still have more to say.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Like, this is fine. It's still okay.
Yeah.
I need it. Like, I enjoyed like all the performances and everything, but I feel like even when they got home, I was like, so it ends now?
Yeah.
Oh, we're still gonna go profess some love? That's fine.
I was like, directed by James L. Brooks, is that coming up anywhere? Anywhere?
Just turn it off and watch The Simpsons then.
Yeah.
I got that reference.
And maybe I was also thinking that because I didn't need them to get together in the end.
Yeah.
I feel like there's plenty of movies where people have remained friends or not even,
or they didn't even have to go there.
Yeah, I mean, like Chasing Amy or The Station Agent, and I had one other on my mind, but just movies that ended with
Annie Hall.
Yeah.
Oh, Annie Hall.
They're friends or they're nothing, and the movie actually feels completely fine to end right here.
Like, to me, it felt like this movie has a great script. Then some Hollywood guy said, nah, you gotta put some stuff in for the old people. Old people like this, and old people like this. Yeah. And I'm like, man, you could.
Homophobia, gotcha.
Yeah, old people love that stuff. No, I'm just kidding. I love old people. But there's so many moments in the movie where I genuinely felt like if it was a director like Clint Eastwood, he's not afraid to show the harsh reality of the situation. Like in a Clint Eastwood movie, like even a movie like Gran Torino or something, that's not extremely violent or anything. It'll just be like, this person can't pay their bills, and the house is getting foreclosed on. That's the movie.
I think
Like, I wish we could have had more of that type of energy in the movie.
I think Jack Nicholson was homophobic enough. I don't need him to get Clint Eastwood.
You don't want him to yell at the empty chair?
I don't need that.
I think the racism and the homophobic comments in the movie did not age well at all.
No.
Especially when I was watching this, I was like taken back by some of the stuff that he was saying. I was like, okay, whoa.
One specific word that starts with an F and ends with a T and has some G's in the middle. Like, okay.
Yeah, that was definitely shocking.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
No. What
does forgery have to do with it? I'm just kidding.
I love the T in that word. But like this movie got Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt Oscars.
Which I think that was BS.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because listen, Jack Nicholson is a great actor, but do you know what I honestly feel like happens? And this happens all of the time. They have so many performances they should have won for. Like, for example, Jack Nicholson should have won for Batman '89.
But
he should have won. No. Look, I can defend that. Defend that. Look at the nominees that year. He should have won, but he should have But anyway, I feel like this happened.
He won for One Flew Over.
Yeah, well, but still, like, they still make makeup Oscars for the ones that, like, for example, Spike Lee was passed over for, I forgot what he did before Black Klansman, but there was a movie he was really passed over for, and that's the reason he got the screenplay award for Black Klansman. Even though Black Klansman, I really enjoy that movie. I don't know if it necessarily deserved that award.
Well, he wasn't winning for Old Boy.
Yeah, but like it was a makeup award. Like that happened with DiCaprio, with The Revenant. It happened with Scorsese, with The Departed. Great movies. But just they shouldn't have won awards for those movies.
Who was nominated against him for Best Actor? Was for Good Will Hunting, Matt Damon.
Yeah, who did so much better?
What? Whoa, yeah, that is.
There wasn't much. L.A. Confidential was the biggest one, I think, against Helen Hunt. I just don't think Helen Hunt did anything spectacular.
Oh, James.
Yeah, and
like honestly, like, do you know why I think? You know the reason why Matt Damon didn't win, right? It's because
he was already winning the
writer award. Yeah, they don't want to do both.
Yeah. Well, and then this movie was nominated. It didn't win, but it was nominated for Best Picture. Titanic won, but among the movies that came out that year, like there was 5 movies nominated, but I would have definitely taken this movie out and thrown in like Boogie Nights.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, the fact that PTA does not have an Oscar means you, the Academy, should be ashamed of yourself.
Truly.
There's a lot of movies for that reason.
Yeah, but literally, he's not won one Oscar in all the great movies. I know this isn't a Paul Thomas Anderson show. We will do a Paul Thomas Anderson episode eventually.
And that is a promise.
There's shockingly a lot of actors in this movie who, within the next 5 years, would be huge.
Oh yeah.
I saw, of course, there's Jamie Kennedy and Skeet Ulrich are the little criminal guys. Maya Rudolph was there for 5 seconds as a cop. As soon as I saw it, I was like, "It's Maya Rudolph right there."
Who's married to PTA? Fun fact, yeah, she's his wife.
Okay. Wood Harris pops up for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Who, like 4 years later, would get Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
And then like the 2 Jewish people that he kicks out of his table at the very beginning are like 2 very much main characters from House.
Yeah.
Why are all these people here? The manager of the restaurant was Shane Black.
Yeah.
The director of Nice Guys and Iron Man 3 and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Like, why are these people here?
Right.
Don't get it.
Wait, hold on. You don't throw in his magnum opus, The Predator? 2018. It's fine. But this is one of those movies. It's like a Where's Waldo of people. Like, it's one of those movies that I feel, and I know this is a cliche term to use, but it's not greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Like, it's just fine. But it's like it could have been so much better. But anyway, I think this has been a great episode. I've been Devontae Banks.
I've been Tristan Glover.
Oh yeah, I've been Paul Schuhart.
And we'll see you next week on our early 2000s chick flick episode. We'll be talking about Bring It On, Legally Blonde, and Miss Congeniality.
Can we talk about Chinatown again?